Hello, this is Mr. Armstrong. Today we're going to be utilizing the graphing calculator to do various things on a graphing calculator. The four things we will do is first off find the roots of any polynomial or the x-intercepts, or sometimes are called zeros. Second thing we'll do is find any relative min or max. Third thing, we'll find any y value when given an x. And the fourth thing is we will utilize our table to find various coordinates so we can graph our function and do other things related to the function. So example 1 I have below right here, x cubed minus 4x squared minus 2x plus 8. We should get our graphing calculator and carefully type that in. At any time during this presentation, just pause your computer if you need to write down something or do something on your calculator. So I'm going to come in here and clear off my calculator and carefully type in the function. I have x cubed minus 4x squared minus 2x plus 8. I'll always hit zoom standard to get this graphed in a standard 10 by 10 window. And we'll notice that we have a polynomial function that has a couple things going on in it. First off, it is hitting the x-axis in three different locations. It has a relative maximum and a relative minimum, and it also hits the y-axis at a specific location. We're now going to spend some time finding these various values. Coming back into the presentation, I will now go in here and do step 3. I will use second calculate 0 to find the root. So we come back in here and we do second calculate, which is the trace key, and I'm looking for a 0. This is going to require us to move our cursor. I'm going to hit the left here because I'm going to make the choice right now to find this coordinate right here where it's hitting the x-axis. I'll hit enter once. I'll now move my cursor to the right of that location, which is going to bring it above. Hit enter a second time and a third time. And the x value that I've attained here is irrational. I'm going to round it off to nearest hundredth, so x will equal negative 1.41. I'll repeat that process again and do second calculate 0. And I'll move now over into this location. I'm looking for the next location where it's hitting the x-axis. My cursor right now is to the left of that location, so I enter once. I now move to the right of that location, which is going to bring it below the x-axis. And I enter a second time, and then a third time, and it will now attain the next x value, and this is going to be a positive 1.4 where it is hitting the x-axis. I do this one last time, second calculate 0, and I'll move my cursor into the next location where it is hitting the x-axis in the third and final location. That is to the left of that location. I press enter. I now move down and I go to the next location. I'm now to the right of that location, and then I enter a third time, and I now attain 4. X equaling 4 is a rational root. The other two were both irrational. This was negative 1.4 and that was positive 1.4. Those were both irrational roots, while this is a rational root of 4. The next thing we'll do is go back in here, and we can now find relative maximums and mins by following these directions. Again, if you need to pause your computer to copy down these notes, you should do that. Going back in here, I will now do second calculate. I'm going to do maximum first. I'm going to take my cursor. This is a maximum here, a relative max. I'll take my cursor and go to the left of that little peak. Once I'm to the left of it, I press enter once, and now I go to the right of that peak. And I enter a second time and a third time, and I'm looking for the coordinates of the maximum, and here I will round to the nearest hundredth. X is negative 0.23, while y is 8.24. That's an x and a y value. I'll go back into my calculator and do second calculate minimum this time. I'll take my cursor and I want to find this location right here. I'm going to bring it down into that location, and I'll be to the left of that dip. Enter once. I go to the right of that dip and enter a second time and a third time, and I will now attain the next value, which is 2.90 comma negative 7.05. Going back to my page, last couple things I can do in here is I can do step 5 and step 6. Second, calculate value allows, when given any x value, I can find a corresponding y value. So for example, if x equals 0 and I press enter, I will attain the location where it hits the y-axis. 0, 8 is the point where it intersects the y-axis. If I do second calculate value and I wanted to find a value further down in this proximity, for example 8, where's the graph? It's very high above, so we should get a very large y value, 248. The last illustration I'm going to do a second calculate value is the event that you choose a number larger than 10 or smaller than negative 10. For example, if I choose 12, the calculator will respond with an invalid. I come back in here and I have to modify my window. I wanted an x max that was more than 10. I wanted 12, so I will change this value right here into something beyond 12. I'm going to choose 15. And I'm going to hit the graph, and what this will do is make this window go from negative 10 all the way out to positive 15. I can now come back in here and do second calculate value, and I can put my value of 12 back on the calculator and enter. So utilizing the window button will help you modify your window according to the value that you want to find. You can modify it to the left by doing smaller values of x. You can modify it upward by working on y maxes, and go downward by doing y mins lower than negative 10. The last thing I'm going to do in here is just utilize my table. If I come in here and do second table, this allows me to find any value. If I was looking for the value when x is negative 5, I have negative 207. If I was looking for when x is 0, I have the value of 8. And the last thing I'm going to comment on is second calculate value is often best used when you have decimals. For example, 2.5, because the table is not always accommodating those. And when I do 2.5, I get negative 6.375. So I'm going to come back in here and show you right here below. I have a second example, and at this time you should pause your computer. Try these 5 examples. So pause. When you're done, you can now check the answers below. Keep practicing and come on in for extra help.